Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. This week is spring break in my house, and it is Monday, April 7th. This week on Thursday at 11 o'clock a.m., I will be going live on Facebook and YouTube to answer your questions instead of streaming. So I will not have a streaming going out on Wednesday. And I will also be going live next week if you send me enough questions. So send me questions. My plan is to go on live on Thursday, then next Monday, and then the next Thursday. This is for the opening of Stand Up and Thrive, my membership. It will be open for new members Thursday to Thursday. So I look forward to that. So send me your questions so that I can answer your questions live. And for today, we have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse. She has a bomb drop of October 5th, 2024, the date of marriage of 2012. She says she's not familiar with contact types, but it appears he's not a clinging boomerang. Probably more often on vanisher. Although I don't know the level of contact they're having, but very distant emotionally is what it sounds like. So, but high energy replay. She says, let's see. We had 12 years of a wonderful marriage. We're from different nationalities, and I left my country to be with him. We never fought. As an aside, never fighting can sometimes be a red flag because we need to be able to know how to get through conflict and disagreements. So, we have a 7-year-old daughter. His mom passed away in 2022. For background, his mom had 4 spouses, and my husband was the last child from her 3rd husband. I discovered the infidelity in May of 2024. It might have been an emotional affair in the beginning, but after I discovered it, he said, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you." Our relationship was too plain. He met her in October of 2023, right after he bought a sports car. He finally chose her, and he moved all of my stuff out of the house while I was healing myself with my family in my home country for 2 months. We're sharing custody while we're separated. He seems happy with the choice, but I've hit rock bottom. Divorce is going on, and it seems cruel for me since he controls everything. He's changed completely. He texts me once a week regarding our daughter's matters and money. What do I do to let go of the pain and hate? This is a really difficult one because, yeah, we've got boomerang, according to the strict definition of boomerang, in that he texts you once a week. But this is also very clear in emotional distance. There's not any clinging in this, is there? He moved you out. Because one of the things I say is the person who wants out gets out. And you weren't given that choice. You left, rightfully so. I mean, not the house, but in a sense of moving out. But you went to be with your family for a while, and because you were just so distraught, right? And while you're gone, he just basically kicks you out, moves all your stuff out. Now, a couple questions I do have about that are, is there any legal recourse for that? And I know the legal recourse for you isn't, can I just move back in? Because that would not be pleasant for you. It would be toxic. But is there legal recourse in, I don't know what the right legal term would be. I'm going to say restitution, but I know that's not the right word probably. But in the divorce proceedings, when it comes time to distribution of assets, he did certain things to you beyond simply in cheating on you, which oftentimes the courts don't care about, sadly, that pain and suffering. But he didn't just force you to move out. He actually had you moved out. He had you kicked out. When you returned, you discovered you did not have a place. You discovered that you were homeless when you returned to your home. Is there something that he can be held accountable for doing that through the divorce proceedings? Some other things that could be in the division of assets? I don't know. He's controlling everything. And so some of my questions are, why? I am imagining that he's controlling everything in some ways because you feel helpless. You feel like you don't know what to do. You're at a loss. You're in a foreign country. You're in his country. He's bullying you. And bullying could include threats. It could include threats regarding your daughter. In other words, I'm going to take her away from you, or I'm not going to give you enough time, or you can't ever leave this country because we have to have shared custody. These sort of things, or maybe parental alienation. I don't know, but I'm imagining those sort of coercions, in addition to your absolute fear just at the shock of what has happened to your family. And so while you're in a fetal position, rocking in the corner crying, he's able to swoop in and take over because you're not managing and you're not functioning. And I know that's really hard, but that's a problem. And so what we need to do is, exactly answering that question, what do you need to do to let go of the pain and hate so that you can function to protect yourself, to protect your daughter, and protect her? What I mean by that is protect her relationship with you. And if he's going to do anything against her in the sense of alienate her from you, or eventually if he is as narcissistic and lacking in empathy as he is showing right now. Because so one of the things that happens is when we're married and we have a wonderful marriage, sometimes it's not as wonderful as we think. Or it is a facade. That is one of the other things that I'm going to have you, you're going to have to recover from, is the idea that you were being betrayed in your trust, and now how do I know what is real and what is not? So this is going to be counseling. What I want you to do to let go of the pain and hate is I want you to find a therapist. And I want you to find a trauma therapist. Because this isn't so much the pain and the hate as it is the trauma. If you call it trauma, I think that it is going to target pain and hate within that trauma. Okay? But find a therapist who specializes in trauma. Look for somebody who does some EMDR. EMDR. Okay? You can look at other things as well, but that is a very important type of trauma therapy that is very effective. And then find a support group and find some other resources. I want you to have support around you, and you moved away from your family. And I don't want you to move away from your daughter. And so it's really hard because your family's over here, you're over here, and you need to be here for your daughter. Unless you are allowed to go back to your family, and that's what you would want if that's where your comfort zone would be. If you could do that with her and have shared custody in that manner, that's an option. But if not, then you need to stay here where you are both close enough to her father so that she can have that relationship with him. But I want you to watch the relationship with him, because I want you to watch how bullying he becomes toward her or not. How isolating he becomes toward her. In other words, does he isolate you from her? Does he talk about you in a negative manner towards her, trying to pit you against her? And it can be subtle, or it can be not subtle, and it can be very overt. But I want you to watch for it, because he may have been showing all sorts of signs of being a lovely and nice man, while at sometimes doing small things to undercut you. And they might have been small at first, and you just dismiss them, and they get bigger. But all of the other stuff was so much more important, and the love and how much you felt together, that you felt it was easy to dismiss these tiny, tiny red flags. But they weren't really as tiny. They were really the main thing. And I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just saying, with the large thing that suddenly, very suddenly, from your perspective happened, could there have been, could this have been happening at other times that you didn't know about? Or could he be somebody who is a covert narcissist and they are better at hiding it? They don't know they're a narcissist either. They think they're the good guy. They think they're very nice. And so do others. But they can be emotionally abusive towards you, and you may not be aware of it until you look back later. And sometimes it's years later. And that's what I want you to work on in therapy. Okay? Because right now, the cruelty is unbearable for you, isn't it? And that's horrible. And I don't want that. I want you to figure out how you can control your part of it. I don't mean simply take account for it. I mean how you can have a say. So first, you need your own lawyer, somebody who is representing you, that is an advocate for you. So how do you have that? And if not, how do you get that? And if he has been the main breadwinner, he needs to be paying for it. And you may not be able to get him to agree to pay for it up front. So see if that, you ask lawyers, is this something that can happen, that he can be made to pay as part of the divorce agreement? That could be mean that you won't know if you have to pay them until after it. I don't know how that works. Okay. It's shaky ground. It's scary. But I want you to protect yourself. This is for your mental health. And it's for your daughter. It's for your relationship with your daughter, so that she can come through this and be a healthy, thriving adult as well, not just you. And it's so that he doesn't learn that he can walk all over you, or that he can walk all over anyone. Somebody needs to stand up to him. And he's going to continue to walk over you if you are allowing him to control everything, or the system is allowing him to control everything. In other words, your hands are tied, and you still don't advocate for yourself. And no matter what you do, the system swoops in and says, well, yeah, too bad. This is what it, you're a woman, or whatever it is, or you're not a citizen. This isn't your country, or you don't know our culture. You don't know our laws, whatever. I want you to advocate for yourself, and I want someone out there for you. Okay. So detachment. When you go to a therapist, I want you to talk to them about detachment. I want you, if you're not already in the support groups, join the support groups, the forum or the Facebook groups, and learn about detachment. Okay, detachment, it is really, really important. But the problem or the challenge is, we can tell you about detachment, and we can teach you. We can give you all this literature, and we can show you through stories about other people. But there are some barriers when your brain has been hijacked by the trauma. And your brain has been hijacked by the trauma. You said you've hit rock bottom. And you said that he controls everything. That means two things to me. You're hit rock bottom, so you aren't functional. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And he's in control. That could mean that you have given up control to him, not intentionally. And it could mean he's taken control, but it might mean that you're being so passive, you're not fighting for it, or you're such a, not passive, just so incapacitated by your shock and trauma and anxiety and depression and everything that has happened to you, the overwhelmance of it, that you don't have control. And unfortunately, that's a recipe that could put him winning in court. And I don't want that. That is going to spiral you more and more and more. And I don't want that. I need you to get yourself some help. And with that help, you can get to the detachment. But it's going to be hard to do some of the things that we teach without having some calm up here. And that takes more than just somebody talking to you and saying, here's what you should do. Or reading a book and saying, here's what you should do. It takes something that is more, I'm going to use the word invasive, but it doesn't have to mean invasive. It doesn't always have to mean pharmaceutical help. And it doesn't mean electroshocks going into your brain. It doesn't have to be invasive in that way, but it is very more, let's just say, targeted. Okay. And it's for you specifically with a professional who is highly trained. I want you finding somebody who specializes, if you can, in EMDR. And if you can find someone who specializes in EMDR for relationship trauma, if there's such a thing, yeah, great, please. Because that's what I would need for you to do, to let go of the pain and hate. If you two were reconciling, I would recommend some of the trauma therapy, but I'd recommend some other therapies. But that's different. Okay? And I'm going to recommend some of those afterwards. Like, how do I heal and how do I learn to trust again? And when I say trust again, I don't simply mean other people. I mean yourself. How do I trust my own judgment? Those will come. Those are later parts of the therapy. Okay? I want you to focus, though, on pain and hate. That is your trauma. Okay? Some of us will say, oh, well, this person was going through a crisis and it was like a mental disease and they couldn't help themselves. That's not always going to be true. And even when they couldn't help themselves, unless they were truly like schizophrenic, midlife crisis people can help themselves. Even when they can't, they can. They're not legally insane. Okay. But what it also means is this is a completely different person than they were. Really isn't who they are. And they changed. They're lost and confused about who they are, and they're going through a crisis of identity. That is different than somebody, say, who was pretending about who they were, or who was living one way and it was just a manipulation, still pretending. And they were always plotting something else. And it wasn't so much an identity crisis. It might be that they didn't have an identity, so they're always manipulating and plotting because maybe they're trying to create one. Maybe they're trying to find the person so they can mimic an identity. Various things. If it's that, some of what you might be dealing with, if it's that, is this is who the person always was. And that might mean that there isn't another person to go back to. And that's what we have to look at. I'm not saying that is or isn't. I'm saying because of the level of what's happened, I am concerned about it. Okay. And what that means is you haven't talked about standing. And at this point, I'm a little bit relieved of that. Because I want you to talk about letting go of the pain and hate. That's the right question. I want you to focus on recovery and then healing the heart, healing all these, healing that trust thing inside and moving forward. And the forgiveness part, when you go to pain and hate, let go of pain and hate, then I'm going to work on forgiving. And I want you to understand, forgiving is letting go of the pain and hate. Forgiveness flows from that. Because forgiveness is when you hold in the energy, you hold in the negative energy. It is not meaning, I pardon you from what you did. Or it means I'm no longer holding the negative energy for you, over you. Because when I do that, it's really sitting over me and it's squeezing at my heart and my life, and I'm the one not letting it go. Forgiving a person doesn't mean you ever have to have them in your life again and with you other than for what you need, but it doesn't mean you start a new positive relationship with them. It can, but it doesn't ever have to mean them. It's not pardon. It doesn't mean, well, we unrung that bell. That doesn't have to happen again and we're going to reconcile now. It just means I don't hold the grudge. It means you still did something really bad to me. I'm not going to forget it. I'm not going to trust you because you haven't changed. It can mean that you trust them if they do show changes, but it doesn't have to mean those things. So you're going to progress. And I like how you're looking first at that pain and hate because that's your trauma. You need to get through it. Get through the trauma so that you can get to the healing, which is going to be your detachment. Okay? Please. Please. So I hope this is helpful. And I will see everybody on Thursday, not on the next question, but